פרימדונה, וכל מה שעובר לך בראש זה... הוא בטוח מבין באוכל. סימן שהמונדיאל מעניין לך את ה... ערוץ 8 מזמין אותך לחודש נטול כדורגל, עם המיליונר הסודי.
Everybody here is a backstory.
ושבוע שלם של תוכניות שיפתחו לך את התיאבון.
My stomach's flatter.
חודש נטול מונדיאל. בשבוע הבא, בערוץ 8.
And action!
Once you start a Bond movie, once it starts, there's no stopping it.
תרבות לילה, ראשון עד חמישי ב-11:10.
I'm the $300 million man.
This is not an agenda point, this is real life.
I haven't been really forthright in terms of telling you guys who I am. I'm a millionaire.
I would really appreciate it if you would accept this gift from me. I walk into this a wealthy man and I'll be walking away from it richer.
המיליונר הסודי, ראשון עד חמישי ב-9:05.
These will be my final show.
Those people who facilitated this, who made this happen, they know who they are.
I don't get everything I want. They will be destroyed forever.
Everyone plays a part in the story of Michael Jackson.
I think Michael Jackson started dying the minute he was falsely accused.
I noticed that he seemed tired because of the rehearsing.
Everyone has a piece of the puzzle.
He did say, Deepak, have you heard of this thing that takes you to the valley of death and then brings you back?
If we finally put them all together, what would we see in the big picture?
All right, Michael Jackson is in the...
Michael's body was placed on this gurney.
Then the other family started to come. And she said, Frank, how is he? And I said, he didn't make it, Kate. She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm sorry, he passed.
Michael was not going to get old. Michael did not want to get old. Michael was Peter Pan.
It's a horrible Hollywood tragedy, an American tragedy, and a human tragedy.
There are so many fragments of truth to put together when you unravel the mystery of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson may have very well been the most talented performer ever, but for the last 15 years of his life, that fact had been lost to a generation who only remember him for being accused of child molestation or a man whose plastic surgeries went sour. 5 years ago, I became obsessed with the story of Michael Jackson. As I watched the world turn against him, I began to gather evidence on the true story of the King of Pop. I worked to gain access to Michael's inner circle by constructing an elaborate series of fake alibis and credentials. I took my camera with me, and I listened to anyone who was willing to talk.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing. I heard this. I want to learn how to be a hairdresser here. I'm going to do the Michael Jackson style.
In my first undercover interview, I spoke with a notorious hairdresser to the stars, telling her I was a gay stylist trying to learn how to do better hair extensions.
Do you think he had extensions?
I don't think Michael would have used extensions if he would never got burned. You know, he had to use extensions because he had a big burn spot. What are you going to do?
Every story I gathered was one more piece in the larger puzzle of Michael Jackson. I was trying to get to the bottom of whether or not Michael was a child molester. When I first started out on this wild odyssey, I thought Michael was guilty. By the end of my investigation, I no longer believed it. I could not find one shred of proof that Michael had molested a child. In December 2008, I reported that Michael Jackson only had 6 months to live. 6 months later, the King of Pop was dead.
He's not breathing and we're trying to pump him, but he's not okay.
That last night was wonderful. It was filled with many hugs and lots of laughter. And, as Michael was leaving, we asked him, are there any notes? He said, nope. And we said, okay, see you tomorrow. He said, great. See you at 2 o'clock. Love you.
There were a few hours in there where you didn't know and you kind of hope and you're getting used to the idea, but still so devastating.
Everybody was in shock. We didn't expect him to die.
He was just a good guy, and very few people like him. They're very vulnerable, very sweet, very giving, loved all people.
People talk about his talent, and they should, because it is great. But I think, for me, more importantly, we lost a great person. And certainly I lost a good friend.
My worst fear occurred when Michael died. Like the rest of the world, I was completely devastated. I had hoped his handlers would wake up and get him the proper medical help he desperately needed. Instead, they booked him 50 shows because his legendary wealth had been in sharp decline.
And when I say this is it really means this is it.
Michael was more than $400 million in debt. No matter what the final autopsy reports would reveal, I am convinced it was greed that killed Michael Jackson. It is my belief that had his career not been driven by a group of undesirable bankers, agents, and doctors during his final days, Michael would still be alive. Today, the focus revolves around his untimely passing. Like all his other fans, when Michael passed, I was determined to find out how he really died.
Failed to tell the truth. You need to start telling the truth, otherwise you got blood on your hands. You're the media. You're supposed to tell the truth.
A media circus gathers, waiting for Michael's personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, to surrender.
Dr. Murray, what would Michael say if he were here today, sir?
I can leave Michael by himself for so long. Justice for Michael! Justice for Michael! We love you, Michael! Justice for Michael!
Conrad Robert Murray, is that your true name, sir? Counsel, wait for the reading of the complaint statement of rights.
We're going to waive the reading of the complaint, Judge, and just enter our plea of not guilty to that complaint.
All right, not guilty, please enter.
The atmosphere was tense. It didn't last long, 20 minutes. Dr. Murray didn't speak much. When he got into the courtroom, he was basically about to cry. He seemed to be completely frightened by Michael Jackson's fans shouting at him, you are a murderer, you're a murderer, and really frightened and emotional about the whole thing.
Dr. Murray is going to be remanded into the custody of the Sheriff's Department, and bail in this particular case is going to be set at $75,000. Now, one of the other restrictions that I'm going to put that I told the attorneys, I'm going to limit your practice of medicine. You may not, under any circumstances, use any anesthetic agent, such as specifically propofol. You're not to be using that, you're not to prescribe that, you're not to have it in any manner whatsoever. Do you understand that?
Dr. Conrad Murray is accused of giving Michael a fatal dose of propofol, an anesthetic used to help him sleep on the night he died. If convicted, Dr. Murray could face up to 4 years in prison. LA Judge Keith Schultz imposed a stiff bail of $75,000, triple the bail in similar cases of this nature. Dr. Murray posted the bail shortly after the hearing and was released.
And when he got out of the hearing room, he was released. He was free, and the one who was not happy was the Jackson family.
Move this way, please. Move back, move back, move back, move back. Back up. Back up.
Can I give you the latest update about today, please? Please? Mr. Jackson, can you give us the latest update?
It is pretty clear that Dr. Murray's arrest has failed to silence Michael's fans, family, and the media. Everyone is still determined to find out what really happened to Michael. People have been chasing the true story of Michael Jackson for years, but nobody has put all of the pieces together, and nobody has the evidence I've gathered from Michael's inner circle. No one has the secret tapes I have.
When we'll live in a perfect paradise earth, where there's no more death, it promises that. That's my #1 dream.
To achieve that? Is death something you're afraid of?
I don't want to see it.
And this is what the big picture of Michael Jackson looks like when you put all those broken pieces together.
Security in the house. The paramedics are running up the stairs.
I got there were people starting to inundate UCLA.
She said, Frank, how is he? And I said, he didn't make it, Kate.
The media and fans were indifferent about whether Michael would be able to once again command the stage. Amid growing reports of bad health, Michael seemed nowhere near 100% to perform. Would Michael finally convince everyone he was ready to take the world back?
These will be my final show. This is it, and see you in July.
The final rehearsal seemed to go without a hitch. Hours later, Michael lapsed into a drug-fueled emotional breakdown. The next day, the world would mourn the biggest music icon since John Lennon and Elvis Presley.
June 25th, it's going to be a beautiful day today in Los Angeles, California.
The day of June 25th, I get into work as normal routine for me, start making breakfast. The kids are there, they're playing with the dog, you know, we're all in the same area. It's a beautiful day. Dr. Murray comes downstairs in a panic, yelling and screaming, "Go get Prince, hurry, go get help, get security."
I was actually having lunch at the Beverly Hilton, and my phone rang, and it was a fan. And the fan said to me, do you know there's an ambulance outside of Michael's gate?
I got a phone call from Randy Jackson, said that Michael had been taken to the hospital.
The first indication that something was wrong with Michael came from celebrity blog TMZ. A 3-sentence story posted on its website claimed that Michael had been rushed to a LA hospital with cardiac arrest. The internet came alive, with media outlets across the world instantly picking up the story. Celebrity gossip guru Perez Hilton even suggested that Jackson might be playing a prank and advised people with tickets to Jackson's comeback concerts to get their money back. Confusion reigned for a couple of hours about whether Michael was in a coma or had died.
While I was waiting for my flight in the terminal, you could start seeing the buzz. I mean, people were starting to watch TV, and Michael Jackson just went to the hospital.
All right, Michael Jackson is in the hospital. He apparently suffered a heart attack. He was picked up at his home close to half an hour ago.
This is a CBS News special report.
Everything stopped. All of a sudden you turn on the TV, CNN is saying this.
He is in a coma right now.
NBC is saying this.
A 911 call was made from Jackson's home.
This is really bad.
Because the Heart Stops functional media, it was the international media, and then there would be throngs of fans. I thought it was a hoax. Yeah.
And I go, no, it can't be true. It's not possible.
I called his assistant. I said, why is there an ambulance outside the gate?
The early afternoon was broken by a call from a division commander who was a field officer who let us know that we had a very famous celebrity that was transported to UCLA.
Fire paramedic 33, what is the emergency? Yes, sir. I need an ambulance as soon as possible, sir. We have a gentleman here that needs help, and he's not breathing yet. He's not breathing, and we're trying to pump him, but he's not. Okay. Okay. How old is he? He's 50 years old, sir. 50. All right. Do you have him? Is he on the floor? Where's he at right now? He's on the bed, sir. He's on the bed. Okay. Let's get him on the floor. Okay. Okay, let's get him down to the floor. I'm going to help you with CPR right now, okay? Yes, we have a personal doctor here with him, sir. Oh, you have a doctor there? Okay, so the doctor see what happened? Doctor, did you see what happened, sir? Sir, you just, if you can please... we're on our way. We're on our way. I'm just passing these questions on to my paramedics while they're on the way there, sir. Thank you, sir. He's pumping his chest, but he's not responding to anything, sir. Please. Okay. We're on our way. We're less than a mile away. We'll be there shortly. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, sir.
At that very moment, I'm seeing paramedics in the house. I'm seeing the security in the house. The paramedics are running up the stairs. The children are crying. I'm crying, and we're holding hands, and we're praying out loud. God, please don't let anything have happened to Mr. Jackson.
Hundreds of media outlets descended on UCLA Medical Center within minutes. Huge crowds emerged outside the center, everyone anticipating the bad news.
I got there were people starting to inundate UCLA.
More and more reports coming in about the death of Mr. Jackson, but it was always saying it wasn't confirmed because I believe they were still at the hospital.
Security had already locked everything down, so we went back, and he was in a room and there was a curtain, and I could hear commotion.
What's going on? The doctors were behind a curtain and they were working on Michael, but it wasn't the kind of commotion that I would have thought would be taking place in a code blue.
Then the other family started to come.
TMZ reported LaToya arrived and wept openly. Soon after, other members of Michael's family started arriving.
So we sat there for a few minutes and the nurse came out. And I stood up and I said, how is he? She said, well, who are you? I said, well, I'm his manager, you know, Frank DeLeo. And I could tell just the way she looked at me that it wasn't good. She went, he's been dead for a couple hours. He's brain dead. I said, no. And I said, all right. I said, look, here's what we need. I said, I need a cardiologist, I need a wheelchair, and I need social workers right now. I said, because Mrs. Jackson has a bad heart.
LaToya was slumping to the floor, crying. And I knew that there was nothing anyone could do.
Then I went in there, Dr. Murray was with me, and there was a social worker and a cardiologist, everything I asked for. And she said, Frank, how is he? And I said, he didn't make it, Kate. She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm sorry, he passed. She grabbed me and cried, and I cried with her. And then I had to tell the children. And that was not an easy day.
Stunning news out of Los Angeles today.
The king of pop has died.
A huge crowd of onlookers, photographers, and reporters gathered around UCLA Medical Center as Michael's brother, Jermaine, emerged to announce the tragic news.
Jermaine?
This is hard. My brother, the legendary king of pop, Michael Jackson, passed away on Thursday, June 25th, 2009 at 2:26 p.m. And may Allah be with you, Michael, always. Love you.
I turned on the radio and I hear that Mr. Jackson had passed. I pulled over in my car. I completely broke down. I'm sorry.
And I just locked myself in the bathroom and cried for literally 3 hours. When I realized that I would never see, hear from, or witness his genius, I just couldn't. I still can't take it, you know. I still can't believe that he's dead.
Michael's July memorial at the Staples Center beamed around the world to more than 1 billion viewers.
But it was such a shock because I felt like it wasn't Michael's time to go.
I just want to tell him that I love him. And I still see your children, and I love them.
An impromptu, emotional speech by Michael's daughter, Paris, was the most poignant and heartbreaking moment of the day.
I just wanted to say, speak up, sweetheart, speak up. Ever since I was born, Daddy has been the best father you could ever imagine. And I just wanted to say I love him so much.
I think he's enjoying it. I think he enjoyed the great turnout. He enjoyed the great love that has been sent to him through all the fans and people that knew him. Yeah, I think he liked it a lot. I really do.
Some people are satisfied just living life every day, and some people are determined to make other people happy through their art and what they do. And to me, that's wonderful.
When I was brought into the fold, there were 10 shows.
They're all sycophants. They're parasites.
Michael's body was placed on this gurney. Dr. Murray was inside this ambulance by Michael's side.
In the months after Michael's death, everyone was rushing to cash in. Every network aired a special tribute. Sony and AEG were rushing out a new movie. None of this surprised me. I've been following the saga for 5 years. I've talked to dozens of Michael's friends and employees. You saw him in the last 6 months of his life. How did he look? Did he look healthy? Was he happy?
To me, he seemed very happy, very enthusiastic, very energetic, very upbeat, and with big plans.
I've gone undercover, and everything I discovered led me in December 2008 to predict that Michael had only 6 months to live. 6 months before Michael died, there were insurmountable factors that set his death in motion. Number 1, debt. Years of legal bills and extravagant living had tapped Michael dry. Record sales were not what they once were. Everyone around Michael needed a handout.
There was a lot of stress with the money. He owed people a lot of money.
Michael lived beyond his means. He also felt that he could leverage himself to any amount of money.
Oh, you need money? Let's borrow it. Oh, well, we got equity here. Do you want that equity? Yeah, sure, why not?
Even though he should have been, by all accounts, a very wealthy man, he didn't have people around him that were helping him to protect his assets.
And all this confusion and debt, and it was, in his mind, overwhelming, because it's roughly $400 million. I showed him that there was light at the end of the tunnel.
Michael needed a mega comeback to bring in new revenue. Then came the announcement for one last tour that would put him right back on top.
This is the final curtain call.
We were creating the This Is It series of concerts for London's O2 Arena. When I was brought into the fold, there were 10 shows. And then after the overwhelming response, then there was the decision, the collective decision, because Michael Jackson never did anything he didn't want to do, the collective decision to do 50.
As soon as I heard about the concerts, the 50 concerts, and his performing, I said, that's it. It's never going to happen.
I don't think that Michael had the physical wherewithal to do 50 concert dates. And in fact, the people involved in negotiating said very clear he did not know that there was going to be 50 concert dates. He thought that it was going to be only 10.
They had enough requests to do 85 shows. So they went to Michael and they said, look, we got a request to do 85 shows. What do you think? He said, I just want to tell you, and I want to be honest with you, Michael, so you get this right now. 50 shows doesn't get you out of debt. I said, we got to do a lot of stadiums to make this up, but we can get this all under control. And he was fine with that.
I don't think Michael would have been fine with doing only 10 shows. You know, that would have been, you know, not as many people.
He agreed to it. He signed it. Now, he would say to people, oh, I went to sleep and I agreed to 10 shows and I woke up and now I'm doing 50. That's his way of saying, I agreed to do 10, but by popular demand, I have to do 50.
The debt alone could not have pushed Michael to take on an overwhelming obligation of 50 shows. There was a second factor that never materialized, Michael's inner circle.
People around Michael Jackson were what we call enablers. They had a lot to gain from him and a lot to lose from him. He was dependent and ruled by others, and that really contributed to his demise.
He had ruthless people around him who found him to be extremely vulnerable.
They're all sycophants. They're parasites. Most of them financial parasites. He was surrounded by people who were just interested in how much money he can make for them.
Michael would go from advisor to advisor, attorney to attorney.
If he had an ache or pain, someone would say, take this. I ran out of this, can I have some more? Yes, of course. I mean, the guy had a couple doctors, so I don't think everyone knew exactly what he was taking.
Of all the doctors around Michael in the last 6 months of his life, one in particular emerged as a powerful player, Michael's personal spokesperson, Dr. Tome. Shortly after I made my prediction that Michael had only 6 months to live, Dr. Tome told the media that my claims were a complete fabrication. I was suspicious about Dr. Tome, especially after I did a background check on him with the American Medical Association. I couldn't find any evidence that he was indeed a medical doctor.
I don't know where Tome came from. He was there. He negotiated the deal. I just know that the way he scheduled some of the dates, Michael was unhappy with, because he never did a tour before. He was a business guy.
While Tome and others discounted my prediction, Michael was rapidly fading. The worldwide media started to pick up the story.
The closer the tour came to arriving, the more shots we saw of him looking very haggard, in a wheelchair, on crutches or whatever.
Yeah, I noticed that he seemed a little tired because of the rehearsing, which would take a toll on anyone.
I know from Mr. Ortega, and I know from other sources that Michael was in pretty good shape, actually.
I think it was part publicity and part legitimate medical issues. I don't think anyone would deny that he was suffering in those last months of his life. He had issues with his lungs, he was anorexic, he was weak, he was in constant pain.
I was amazed how Tome argued that Michael had a clean bill of health, especially in light of events 2 weeks earlier, when Tome told the media Michael was too ill to fly to testify in the multi-million-dollar lawsuit launched against Michael by the Prince of Bahrain. Despite growing reports, Michael passed a physical exam for the 50 shows that has since been called into question.
How is it humanly possible that he passed the physical for the AEG performance in London? One of the things that we all want to see is that physical examination. How in the world could it possibly be unless somebody had their eyes closed?
How does a so-called healthy person end up in cardiac arrest in the back of an ambulance? The real-life story doesn't match up with the story we are told on paper.
This is the ambulance that rushed Michael to the UCLA hospital on June 25th. The whole world's eyes were watching this ambulance, praying that Michael Jackson was still alive. Michael's body was placed on this gurney. He was administered oxygen. They were trying everything to revive him. Unfortunately, by the time Michael arrived at UCLA hospital, it was too late. Dr. Murray was inside this ambulance the whole time by Michael's side, and Dr. Murray became the focus of the investigation surrounding Michael's death.
This story doesn't end with Dr. Murray. This story runs much deeper.
I can't stand for a person to be dishonest, number one. I can't stand for a person to cheat another person, no matter what. And I believe in all fairness because I'm fair. I love people, but I don't like the evilness of people.
You can separate that, huh?
This is the drug that Dr. Murray said that he gave Michael Jackson.
Anybody witness what happened? No, just the doctor, sir.
Before this is all over, you will find other people being named.
So many show visits. I mean, Elton, Lennon, all of those guys went through that.
My situation is unusual. There's probably not one who's done it. Who's had my success and not been affected by that stuff.
In the aftermath of Michael Jackson's death, public interest intensified as bizarre details of the investigation leaked out. Everyone had a theory on how Michael died.
The media gives us different views of what took place. You need to analyze it on your own, what you think took place, what the facts are, and what the truth is.
Larry Seidlin was the presiding judge in the trials following the death of Anna Nicole Smith. In the recurring tragedies that make the celebrity overdose an all-too-familiar story, Judge Seidlin and many others see a common story of powerful stars who are manipulated and endangered by the people around them.
I saw a parallel between the way Michael Jackson died and the way Anna Nicole died. It was too many drugs, people enabling her by giving her all these drugs, and it led down the path of death.
When you have that kind of fame and that kind of extraordinary talent, people around you are very often using you for one thing or another.
The hard proof finally came out in the coroner's report 8 months after Michael died. The coroner's report reads like a medical handbook, revealing a complex array of prescription drug abuse.
We had been told earlier on that there were certain drugs involved. Propofol, also called Diprovan, midazolam, also called Versed, lorazepam, which is Ativan, diazepam, which is Valium. We knew that these drugs had been prescribed by Dr. Murray, by Dr. Klein, by Dr. Mesker, and who knows by what other people.
He did say many years ago to me, Deepak, have you heard of this thing that takes you to the valley of death and then brings you back? He was obviously talking about this anesthetic.
The autopsy reported the usual cocktail of antidepressants and painkillers. But what shocked everyone was the official cause of death, acute propofol intoxication. The report ruled Michael's death a homicide as a direct result of the actions of his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray.
He was somebody that we really never met. That was the person that Michael wanted to take on tour. He picked him, we didn't.
This is the drug that Dr. Murray said that he gave Michael Jackson. It's called propofol, brand name Diprovan. It has to be put through an intravenous line.
It's very fast acting. It puts you out. It gives you a huge sense of euphoria. And if you go a little bit beyond the edge, you are in the valley of death.
I know of no case, I've not seen one in all my years, in which someone has died from propofol drug abuse. And the reason is this is not a drug that you buy over the counter. It's not a drug that I as a doctor can prescribe for you. It's a drug that is found only in the hospital.
Well, from what I've read about Dr. Murray's background, supposedly he was trained as a cardiologist, and then he's starting to use anesthetic drugs that he's not even trained in using. So he doesn't know how to dose the medication.
Aside from Dr. Murray's lack of training as an anesthesiologist, there are indications in the autopsy report and the 911 calls that Murray failed even the most basic emergency procedure.
Did anybody witness what happened? No, just the doctor, sir. The doctor's been the only one here. Oh, you have a doctor there? Okay, so the doctor see what happened? Doctor, did you see what happened, sir?
There was a doctor there, and the doctor was doing CPR on the bed.
He's pumping his chest, but he's not responding to anything, sir. Please. Is he on the floor? Where's he at right now? He's on the bed, sir.
Firefighters, realizing that that was a wrong procedure, gave them orders to take the patient, Michael Jackson, off the bed so that you had a firm surface on which to do CPR.
Okay, let's get him on the floor. Okay. Okay, let's get him down to the floor. I'm going to help you with CPR right now, okay?
Now, there's conflicting stories. Michael's on the floor, he puts him on the bed, then he does CPR on a fluffy bed. Well, if he's a cardiologist, he should know that a hard surface is the best place to do chest compressions.
Not only are Murray's life-saving efforts being called into question, his basic reporting of facts in the police report are now in dispute.
Conrad Murray told the police originally that at a certain point in that day, he found Michael Jackson having trouble. And then at that point started to do whatever it is he was going to do to help him out. But then that was contradicted by the phone records. The police naturally got the phone records. And when they saw the phone records, they realized that after that time that Conrad Murray gave as having first noticed Michael Jackson was in trouble, Conrad Murray was talking on the phone to other people.
In a calm, business-like manner, Dr. Murray made several phone calls that would have occurred after the time he told police he found Michael unconscious.
This is Dr. Murray from Bob. Hi, how are you? Sorry I missed you. Just wanted to talk to you about your results of ECP.
Even if Dr. Murray's details were understandably confused in the rush of events that day, the biggest question remaining is how it took nearly 90 minutes from the time he discovered Michael to the time he instructed security staff to place the 911 call.
So the paramedics come 90 minutes later. The guy was probably brain dead right there at that point. So there was nothing to resuscitate. So precious time was lost.
We call it the golden hour. If paramedics can get on scene and spend as much time as necessary to stabilize the patient, chances for his life to be saved are great.
I think he got really scared. He realized Michael Jackson, this is Michael Jackson. You know, it's just not anybody. He's laying there, no pulse, unconscious. What is he going to do? It's a panic situation.
He was there to take care of Michael Jackson as a physician. He had an ethical, moral, and professional responsibility, and he failed. He failed abysmally. He is a trained physician. you don't do something that you know is wrong. And you don't do it because the patient says, hey, doc, let me tell you, man, what really works for me.
Someone who should have said, listen, I'm not going to do this because this is not something that's even feasible in the home.
The mere administration of propofol for sleep is way outside the standard of care. It's just not done.
Anesthesia is not sleep. It's not the same. So you don't feel the same when you wake up. You don't feel rested. It's not a treatment for insomnia. It's a treatment for getting people through medical procedures and surgeries.
In my view, this was an illegal procedure. It should not have happened outside a hospital setting.
The autopsy report seemed to generate more questions than it did answers. Too many loose ends have contributed to a growing course of questions and theories of a larger conspiracy and even a cover-up.
When you read the autopsy report, the first thing that strikes you is the fact that propofol and lidocaine were found in Michael Jackson's stomach contents. There are only two ways that the lidocaine propofol mix could have gotten into Michael Jackson's stomach. One, he drank it himself, or two, Conrad Murray put it in there.
Neither theory has been proven in a court of law, but has only added more suspicion and speculation as to the validity of Dr. Murray's story.
The dosage that Conrad Murray says he gave Michael Jackson is not believable. This is how much propofol we use to put somebody to sleep. To keep somebody Michael Jackson's size to sleep for hours, you would need at least 10 to 14 of these bottles. This is how much Conrad Murray says he gave Michael Jackson, 25 milligrams, to keep Michael Jackson asleep for 8 hours. Conrad Murray, this little 25 milligrams that he claims that he gave Michael Jackson, there's no way that that would last for 8 hours, nor would it keep anybody asleep for any period of time.
Mr. Jackson.
From whence cometh the propofol? Who prescribed it? Who obtained it? And that's why I think that there are more people involved, and I believe that before this is all over, you will find other people being named.
Conrad Murray left the premises for 4 hours to go see a call girl. That's called murder. Let me see the hands who's reported. It's all on the internet.
You gotta wonder if he wasn't killed. My first thought when the movie was over, this is it. They killed him. Because they don't have to mess with him anymore. They have all this music, all this footage. We're gonna have Michael Jackson till the day we die. It seems like everybody's better off and richer without Michael.
I've heard that a lot of folks say that Michael was worth more dead than alive. It breaks my heart to hear this. Is it true? I don't know whether it's true. Time, I think, is the only judge that we can ever have of that.
We don't know what happened behind closed doors. We don't know what happened in his house. What we do know, and as an observer of celebrity culture, it's not really a surprise that he ended up an addicted person and the people around him using and abusing him endlessly. It's a horrible Hollywood tragedy, an American tragedy, and a human tragedy.
Is the thing that you fear the most or would be the saddest thing for you?
If somebody would cheat me, but I won't go for that.
Would be the fact that you would give in like Elvis did to all these vices, or...
Oh, I know that's not going to happen.
You don't even worry about that.
No.
We knew that Michael had a medication problem.
Hey, good morning.
Mr. Perino, thank you.
How are you?
How was he without a shirt? Was he toned?
Yeah, all white.
All white?
White.
I hate Pepsi.
Or you want to say that, though?
I'd rather not.
No.
I can't stand Pepsi. I hated doing that dumb commercial.
In the wake of Michael's passing, every day unveiled new evidence of how Michael's downfall began decades ago.
I want to show you and our viewers some video that we've got a clip of from Us Weekly.
Us Weekly magazine has obtained footage of the 1984 Pepsi commercial shoot that went terribly wrong for Michael Jackson.
The gossip shows reached out to me for a perspective, but everyone wanted sensationalism, not the truth. Those who knew Michael understood the impact of the 1984 disaster long before the footage was leaked out.
Yeah, I was present at it. I did not manage him at that moment. Watched all the takes. We were done. I said goodbye. Then they called for one more take.
There you see it, his hair, his head, his scalp catches on fire.
That was a terrible, terrible day, and that caused him a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort in his life.
Author Ian Halperin.
Jane, let me tell you one thing about all this. Now's not the time to dig up the skeletons about Michael Jackson. The world's in mourning. His family's in mourning. We got to focus on a proper investigation.
He did get addicted to the drugs after the Pepsi accident.
Throughout all of Michael's life, we knew that Michael had a medication problem. Nothing stopped him from performing, but he had this problem.
Did anybody ever tell him he was a mess? Did he have people around him who could tell him the truth? Probably not.
No, because during that period, it wasn't a problem. You know, if he took a pain pill now and then, it was no big deal.
There were some signs, and I was concerned about it, but he assured me that he had been going through treatments for years.
As long as it was being done reasonably, it was okay, I guess, but it got out of control.
And I would take him back to his room, sometimes having to carry him to his room, unzip his boots, put him in bed, and then I would sit there for 3 or 4 hours and watch over him, make sure he was still breathing.
Unfortunately, the addiction was then perpetuated by doctors. But once you're an addict, then you do ask for the drugs.
If you're exalted, if you're the king of pop, if you're Michael Jackson, you never have to hear the word no.
Michael was a very powerful man. He had a powerful mind and he had a powerful wallet.
He was able to buy doctors.
There's a drug for everything, right? Your leg is restless. There's a drug.
He asked me once for a prescription and I refused, and that was a while back, and he never asked me again.
I did ask him about it in March. I said, Mike, I said, I don't want to really bring this up, but is there anything, do you need help? Are you taking anything? And he got very indignant. He got mad at me.
I was amazed that no substantial intervention seemed to have ever occurred, even after numerous rumors of health issues arose during rehearsals for This Is It.
There have been very mixed reports. You can talk to a choreographer who says he was brilliant. You can talk to somebody who said he came in a wheelchair. Now, everybody seems to have an agenda with Michael Jackson. So, was he in a wheelchair? Was he jumping up and down and moonwalking?
In order to find out if Michael was fit enough to do the 50 concerts, I sought out Michael's longtime personal trainer, the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, Mr. Farino. Thank you.
How are you?
Very good.
How's it going?
I posed undercover, telling Ferrigno I was an out-of-shape gay canoe instructor from Canada who desperately needed to lose weight.
You were the man. I mean, he was in shape.
Yeah, I know him for 20 years. We spent a lot of time together.
Wow, so this is...
Yeah, this is my torture chamber. This is where I do the private training. Michael, all the celebrities, it's private, it's one-on-one.
Could you give me the Hulk pose like this? Would you do that?
Okay.
Okay. Now, could you run me through a bit of the exercises you were running Michael through for the This Is It tour?
Yeah, you want to take your sweatshirt off and loosen them?
I was surprised to hear that the training was a fairly casual process, full of the playful banter Michael loved to share with all his friends.
Well, Michael came here. At times, he would have a mask on, glasses, the black hat, gloves. And I said, why are you wearing a mask? He said, I want people staring at me. I said, Michael, 10 o'clock at night, there's nobody here. Please take the mask off. So he would just look around and just take the mask off. Then he started playing with my lights. He said he wanted it dark in here. I said, no, Michael, I don't want it to be dark in here. So he was always, pranks, always teasing me.
How many times did you work him out for the This Is It tour?
2 or 3 times a week for about a couple months.
And was he making progress?
Yeah.
He was physically able to do 50 concert dates. He always was in good health.
I remember commenting to my buddies when we went to go see This Is It. He didn't seem like a sick man to me at all. He didn't seem in pain or ailing or frail, as so many people like to paint a picture of him.
Well, the last meeting I had with him, which was to discuss a book, I thought that he really wasn't in any shape to do anything. He was very weak. He was very fragile. I found it to be extremely disturbing. When people are in a really fragile mental state, it's not a time for them to be pursuing, business projects of any kind, really.
And how was he without a shirt? Was he toned?
Yeah, all white.
All white?
White. White like you.
Are you serious?
White. Completely white.
What, his torso was right, his whole body was white?
Yeah.
How's that possible?
I have no idea.
So far just seeing who's in better shape, me or Michael. And be honest.
You.
Just from speaking with our sources, it was very clear that he obviously had a lot of medical issues. He was in a lot of pain. He was anorexic, basically, towards those last days.
I will say, my last time seeing him, that he had, lost a few more pounds, but I just said that came from him rehearsing hard.
Jackson wanted to be light as he can be because of his dancing. He didn't want to put on weight. He was a fanatic about it. So that's why when he came here, we got on the scale to make sure he weighed the same. I said to Michael, not how much you weigh, it's not the scale, it's how you look in the mirror. But what's interesting, though, he had a complete physical, and he passed with flying color.
He saw a doctor here in New York. He gave him what was later described as the body of a NASA astronaut.
There was a lot of money at stake, and when that kind of thing happens, people collaborate to make it happen. Maybe he just passed it, things were fudged, and it happens all the time.
Now, I do know that the company in Britain didn't believe the report. Bearing in mind, he was packing literally to go to London when he died. So within the next few days, they had demanded a second medical when he arrived in London.
As rehearsals intensified and fatigue set in, Michael's need for escape grew desperate. Michael had to get on stage at any cost.
What Michael Jackson wants, Michael Jackson gets. So if he was to say to Conrad Murray, I cannot sleep, you've got to help me, obviously Conrad Murray did what he felt he had to do to help him sleep.
He told me he always had trouble sleeping, and it really bothered him. So he would just stay up late and then wake up maybe like 11, 12 o'clock. When I started with him, he would come here at 10 o'clock at night to midnight.
I think Michael Jackson died from exhaustion. He couldn't sleep anymore because he had so many problems. He had so many things that built up over the years that his heart just gave out.
You got to remember, he was in debt, $400 million. There was so much stress. We had the two kids. He had to do the tour, trouble sleeping. I think he needed more time to train, because after I trained him, then he would go on Burbank to work with the choreography, the directing, and the tour. I mean, it was a huge task.
All I heard during the final weeks of Michael's life is that he was missing his rehearsals. He could not rehearse. AEG announced that there was going to be a postponement. That's the fact. That's what was happening. What you see in the movie, I think, is not an accurate reflection of what really was taking place.
I saw that movie, This Is It, and I saw how hard he was working and training, and he was phenomenal. But he was a fragile, 135-pound man, and the pressure eventually, his heart just gave out.
It's impossible to name any single cause in Michael's passing. The real cause may be many decades of turbulent times and many lies in the past.
Is that something you just insist on, or is it something
I insist on it. I want to sail my own course. I'm the captain of my ship. I take suggestions. I'll listen to what everybody has to say, but the final decision is mine. And Jesus said to love the children and be like children.
I think he was a classic pedophile.
The evidence showed this was a complete setup.
I'll get everything I want. There will be destroyed forever.
I think that's my greatest inspiration. It is. Like, I mean, I love Disneyland and stuff, but I go there. Like 90% is me watching the kids.
My involvement with the Michael Jackson case actually began on June 13, 2005, as a breaking news alert flashed on TV announcing that the jury had reached a verdict in Michael's child molestation trial.
We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of lewd act upon a minor child.
The crowd outside the courtroom went wild. A woman released a white dove for each count Michael was acquitted. The prosecution had completely failed to even get one conviction. Michael was free. I was stunned. I thought this was another O.J. Simpson travesty, where a high-priced legal team helped the guilty celebrity walk free.
There he is now, leaving the courtroom, waving to the fans.
As the father of a young child, I found the idea that a sexual predator may have evaded justice repugnant. I decided on the spot that I was going to bring Michael to justice in some way.
I was fuming. I thought we had another O.J. Simpson running around. I thought it would take me 2 weeks to nail Jackson, prove to the world that he was a child molester.
Much of what I discovered did not present Michael in a positive light.
I think he was a classic pedophile. He very often befriended the parents first, or he picked children who came from broken marriages who were vulnerable.
I remember just thinking how weird he was in every way. And certainly an adult man hanging with kids and rolling around with them and no parents around, it was freaky to me.
The first allegations of pedophilia stemmed from the 1993 case of Jordan Chandler, after the boy's father, Evan Chandler, sued Michael Jackson for allegedly molesting his son. The investigation dragged out into a scandalous series of headlines. The tabloids went wild. After Jordan Chandler gave police his testimony, the DA's office subjected Michael to a rigorous physical exam in order to corroborate the accuser's description of Michael's body.
I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted.
Jordan Chandler told police that Michael was circumcised, but there were problems with his testimony. The physical description and the results of the search did not match up.
Something just doesn't make sense about the 1993 accusations at all.
The evidence showed this was a complete setup.
Eventually, secret audio recordings came to light, revealing the father, Evan Chandler, making plans to destroy Michael Jackson, both personally and professionally.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. And not believe that he will not believe what's going to happen. It's beyond his worst nightmares.
This is not just evidence as it ordinarily develops.
If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want. There will be destroyed forever.
I called him up and he said, "Do you believe this?" I said, "Michael, I know exactly what happened." I said, my advice to you is to fight it. He said, "I am." I said, "Because if you don't fight it now, it's going to linger and cause problems." That was not the advice everybody wanted me to give him.
As the allegations wore on, Michael continued to fight back.
I get tired of situations like this, where people completely lie on me, and I'm sick of it.
But in 1994, Michael's insurance company abruptly stepped in and settled the case out of court on his behalf.
Part of their theory was, you're going to go on tour, we have an album coming, and they caused him to take the easy way out, which really became the hard road. And he decided to settle.
People say, hey, it's an indication that he was somehow responsible or a confession of guilty. Because he was not in control of it.
Although Michael was pressured into settling to avoid derailing his world tour, the tabloids and the public looked at Evan Chandler's reported $22 million payout and perceived guilt on Michael's part. Relentless jokes and accusations of pedophilia would torment Jackson for the rest of his life.
I think to all appearances, it was suggestive that he was, but people didn't realize that, you can have this obsession with children and be a child without having any sexual component to it.
And Jesus said to love the children and be like children, be youthful and be innocent and be pure and honorable.
I think Michael Jackson, in his purest form, was a child in a 50-something-year-old man's body.
My children used to go to Neverland since they were very young, and they never observed anything that was abnormal.
It was just kind of this place that fell straight out of your fantasies and dreams. I mean, there were movie theaters and bumper cars and carnival wheels and, like, endless playtime.
4 years after the 2005 trial, I interviewed hundreds of Michael's friends and associates. The more people I spoke to, the more it became clear that Michael Jackson was an innocent man.
I had the ability to be around Michael 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I never saw anything appropriate. If I had seen anything inappropriate at that time, I'd be the one to be slapping cuffs on Michael and take him down.
A lot of people said, Michael, don't have any kind of connection with kids. And he was rebellious. Don't tell me to change my persona. Don't tell me to change who and what I am. I will be the man I want to be.
And he always surrounded himself with children. And that's how I was raised, to believe and to be like that and to imitate that. I don't know what you're trying to make out of this.
I'm not trying to make anything out of it. I'm trying to identify whose handwriting it was.
Okay.
Did we answer?
Like most people, almost everything I thought I knew about the case was wrong. I'd been influenced to a great extent by the irresponsible and heavily biased reporting of journalists seemingly out to get Michael.
There was the public opinion that he settled back in 1993, therefore he must be responsible.
When I arrived there was between 1,000 to 1,500 press people. They all thought he was guilty.
The strain of the second child molestation case took a devastating toll on Michael's health. Michael appeared close to collapse several times during the trial.
But not an emotion on his face. One can only imagine what roller coaster of emotions he may well have been going through.
It affected his life, it affected his being. He was very angry and upset. I would get calls at 2:30 in the morning. Brian, why are they doing this to me?
In the last few weeks, a large amount of ugly, malicious information has been released into the media about me. The information is disgusting and false. Through the years, I have helped thousands of children who are ill or in distress. These events have caused a nightmare for my family, my children, and me. I never intend to place myself in so vulnerable a position ever again. Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court. I will be acquitted and vindicated when the truth is told. Thank you.
And he was determined to fight that case because he was innocent. You know, he was absolutely innocent in both cases.
The jury understood it. The people who were involved in the case saw the evidence was absolutely overwhelming that Michael Jackson did nothing. You couldn't place Michael Jackson in the same place with these accusers on the dates and times when they said it happened. It never happened.
My investigation of the 2005 Gavin Arvizio case clearly showed that the plaintiff and his family had a long history of trying to extort money and were charged with perjury and welfare fraud.
I would find evidence of their fraud, defrauding the government at the very same moment, instant, that they were accusing him of molestation.
I was unable to find the smoking gun I needed to reopen the case against Michael. By the end of my investigation, I thought Michael himself was the victim.
The world followed the trial and never covered the fact that he was innocent as much as they tried to say that he was guilty. You don't see the clip in the courtroom where they say innocent, 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 innocent 10 times. You never see that clip. You see all the other BS. And that's what's wrong.
We were the ones, American press was the ones that did that to him. They were the ones that were killing Michael Jackson and making him go off the deep end.
The charges about sexual molestation of children whom Michael Jackson loved so much and felt so close to totally devastated him. That was his downfall.
To your knowledge, Mr. Jackson, were you ever accused of having sexually molested Brett Barnes?
Who would answer that?
I think he was traumatized from the whole experience a lot.
I think it just killed him. It ruined him. Michael just changed. Got a little more secluded. You didn't see much of him.
And that was the end of him. I don't think he ever recovered. I think from the time that those accusations came out, that his emotions just went down and down and down and down.
Judge Rodney Melville, he said to Michael Jackson, he said, Mr. Jackson, your bail is exonerated and you are released. Words that will be played, I'm sure, on countless occasions from now forevermore.
But the world never remembered those words, and no one was ever exonerated from the shadow of the trial. Michael's image was forever tarnished. In later years, the 1993 accuser, Jordan Chandler, would file a restraining order against his father, Evan Chandler, for beating and macing him during a violent struggle. After Michael died of an overdose, Evan Chandler shot himself. He left no note or mention of his reasons.
After Michael died, and all this dust and accusation and garbage about prior things was looked at from the point of view of, really, was it valid? I think the overwhelming response to him tells us the public now recognizes that was so much smoke and so much nonsense. I think we finally got through to the public that Michael Jackson never hurt a child.
I love the whole idea of being untouched I even like them undisciplined. You know, anything goes. Throw stuff and just be yourself. Jump on the bed. Put your shoes on the couch. I just love watching their behavior.
He was done with America. He wanted to leave.
To June, today was like being baptized in the sea of life.
His life was the heights of ecstasy, but really the depths of agony.
Wrongful accusations and relentless scrutiny from the police, the media, and the public had destroyed the sanctity of Neverland.
He always used to say, you know, Neverland was, again, his sanctuary. It was really his home. It was the one place you could see him really comfortable.
My children were born in this community. My home is in this community. I will always love this community from the bottom of my heart.
When agents went in to Neverland and raided the place and took stuff away, it would never be the same again. That he would never live there again.
He decided to flee the spotlight of bad publicity in the U.S.
His money woes, the accusations, all these things added to his terrible pain that he wanted to escape.
He just disappeared.
Michael and his 3 children would spend the next few years living a nomadic existence, traveling from one part of the globe to another, failing to put down permanent roots.
He was done with America. He wanted to leave.
I think he left the U.S. because he was hurt by all the bad press and just the vicious nature of the attacks in the media.
So I think going off to Bahrain was a question of running away, trying to recreate himself, I don't know.
For a time, the Prince of Bahrain gave Michael and his family a place to call home. But like all other things in Michael's life, that disappeared too.
And he left there owing money.
Once again, Michael needed to escape.
We'd see photos of him in LA or in Europe, and they were always a little eccentric because he'd be wearing masks, or one day he'd be in a wheelchair, or one day the kids would come out wearing masquerade masks, and you just never knew what would pop up next.
He was in another world, in a sense. There was such a sense of, oh my goodness, I'm not so sure that this person can survive in this world as it is, with all these complications, and deal with it because of his fragility.
Michael's quest for any kind of grounding sometimes led him to pursue higher powers at the risk of further losing his grip on reality. Could Michael's spirituality have impacted his attachment to this world? I paid a visit to one of his last advisors, the Reverend June Gatlin.
I'm so glad for this opportunity because this allows us the privilege of really showing honor and giving honor to a man who is so great and so majestic. He's the reason we're here today.
He was highly spiritual.
Oh, of course, absolutely. And a lot of people didn't know that.
The Michael was an explorer. He wanted to meet everybody.
And he did have some spiritual leanings as well, and some spiritual calling. He sought spiritual advisors.
So when he gathered these people around, this was part of his plan, a very powerful plan.
Anybody who wrote a good book on spirituality, anybody who was to him a mystery, he wanted to meet them.
Everywhere I went, there were stories of Michael's search from faith to faith for something that he never found. Some rumors went beyond ordinary faith and into superstitious fantasy.
All the major superstars used to always talk about how to reach the gift giver because he's the one that used to control the world. And the only way you could reach him, you got to go into almost like a coma stage. And how Michael used to try to reach it was do the drugs and get into like a coma stage. I don't know if it was true, but these are conversations I stayed listened to.
These journals here are 2009. Are you interested in seeing something that,
Oh, I'd love to.
To June, today was like being baptized in the sea of life, the most purifying of waters. You are a gift from God, and all your days on this planet continue to be blessed. I love you, Michael Jackson. That was May 9th.
He was an amazing writer. People don't give him that due. He was a poet.
Oh my God. Michael's a phenomenal writer.
Michael believed in a muse. Michael believed in guardian angels. Michael believed in gift givers. Michael did say very frequently that the music came through him, that he wasn't composing it.
And then I know his real voice.
Tell me his real voice. How does it sound?
Doesn't sound like...
Hi, it doesn't sound like that.
I said, honey, I said, say your real voice. I said, say I'm great. I am great. I said, no. I said, say it in your real voice. I am great. I said, that's it, honey.
Let's remember that he was taught the importance of the Bible from the time he was younger. He had some religious feelings all through his life.
Can we say a prayer for him now? Can we do like a, lead me through it?
We're most grateful and thankful for the life whom Michael is, and I say thank you, and you may say thank you.
Thank you.
And so it is.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. He is. And so are you, honey.
Thank you. Reverend June has a rare acceptance for Michael's passing. It may be that in death, Michael finally found the ultimate escape from a lifetime of suffering.
Michael died. Spirit departed the flesh. It said, gave it up. He wouldn't have left if he wasn't supposed to. As I tell people, there's no such thing as premature death. When you leave and you don't return into that flesh, you're supposed to be gone. And that's why people all over this planet feel him. Hasn't been anybody like him. I told him, never will be anybody like you, honey. Never has been, never will be. There's only one.
You know, I would hope that Michael, wherever he is at peace at last. I mean, he was an amazingly brilliant talent and person, but he was tormented also, and his life was the heights of ecstasy, but really the depths of agony also, and that was hard to watch. And so I would hope wherever he is now, he's found some sense of peace.
Why do you think still people find it so hard reaching out to God?
Because they can't see him. And people always don't believe in something they can't see. It's like seeing is believing. They have to see it to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
The family situation is a recipe for disaster.
He was both physically and verbally abused as a child.
After Michael's death, there was an outpouring of love and support as the world grieved. But everyone was shocked by what they saw from the Jackson family.
We all witnessed how when Michael was dead, you would think the father of Michael Jackson would show some kind of pain, but he's advertising his new record label that's coming out.
Just days after Michael's death, Joe Jackson provoked outrage after speaking with CNN on the red carpet at the BET Awards.
The last couple of days, I know it's been really tough for you guys. And?
Hello to you. Hello to you go.
What about Janet and the rest of the family, the daughters and everyone?
They're all doing fine. But I want to make this statement. This is a real good statement here. Marshall and I we owned a record company called
Moran's Records.
Right.
Well, I thought that was the wrong time to make any announcements. Some of the family did what they thought. I don't know what they were thinking, because they also sold interviews.
LaToya Jackson received an undisclosed sum for a Daily Mail interview claiming Michael was murdered. Rumors began to spread that Joe Jackson was paid as much as $200,000 in licensing fees for his ABC interview. But the allegations didn't end there.
When I found out about Joe Jackson, he would come to Michael's funeral, but only if he got paid by the city of Gary, a broke city. Yeah, I don't think that's love. I don't think he loved Michael.
I think just from what we know Michael said about Joe Jackson, we know he was always looking to profit off the family. The fact that he's starting a Jackson record label isn't really surprising to anyone who's been following the saga of the Jackson family.
The family situation of Michael Jackson is a real recipe for disaster. His family may have loved him and adored him. They also used him in different ways.
During my investigation, I talked to a music industry executive who had witnessed firsthand Joe Jackson's stake in his son's career. It was the early 90s, and Michael was about to release a new single with Eddie Murphy.
6 weeks before the album comes out, we get a call from Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson said, you know, well, if you want this deal to happen, you have to give me a 20% publishing cut at my own publishing company. But it was a side deal that I don't think Michael even knew about.
Even after Michael's death, Joe Jackson continued to lay claim to Michael's money. After Michael left nothing to Joe, Joe sued the estate for parental support to the tune of $15,000 a month. His claim was denied, and he is now in the process of filing a wrongful death suit against Conrad Murray.
Michael has been made a victim in cruel, obvious attempt to take advantage of his fame and success.
It's not that they didn't love him or support him, they just wanted a piece of him. And he didn't have that support from his own father.
I gotta say that with all the commotion and criticism about Joe Jackson, he was a dang good father. He was always right there for Michael, no question about it. During the trial, he would come to the courthouse, and I think that Michael loved him to the core.
Early on in Michael Jackson's life, if you take a look at the trajectory of his life, he was a child star. You know, if you read the reports about his father was abusive.
Michael used to tell me that he was both physically and verbally abused as a child.
The kids were pushed really hard, and Joe was a very strict father.
The traumas that this young Michael Jackson, this child, had to deal with were incredible.
He had very bad acne, and I saw the pictures. He used to show them to me.
Especially when everybody calling you real cute for a long time. And then, like, you know, I broke out real bad. And the more I was bothered by it, the worse it got. Not only does it become the food you eat, but you become subconsciously scarred by it.
Michael talked in very colorful detail how Joe would tease him and take a fork to his zits when he had bad skin.
And he also told me that his father, you know, had talked about his nose a few times, so he wanted to reshape his nose when he was able to do it.
We're taught at a very young age that we're ugly and that people have to accept this. If we change ourselves to look more like them, then it's going to stick.
You take somebody with that tremendous sensitivity and you traumatize them over and over again. It's no wonder that he ended up with body dysmorphia, you know, basically mutilating himself with plastic surgery.
It's like anything else. Once you do one thing, then you start to notice something else. He always wanted to be slender. He thought he was overweight.
I mean, he was handsome. Women adored him. They fell at his feet. So I don't understand why, as a proud black man, he would want to change his image.
In my view, Michael Jackson had an identity crisis. He did not know who he was and was not happy with who he was.
I'm a black American and I'm proud of it, and I'm honored of it. The bleach skin rumor, which is a rumor, I don't bleach my skin. They once said I wanted a white kid to play me as a child, which was a rumor.
He was growing up. He grew up in front of our eyes. He wanted to be something different.
He would, of course, have all those plastic surgeries to change his nose and cheeks and face and lips and hair, and also his skin color.
I think Michael Jackson would do anything to improve his looks in his eyes.
Over the years, Michael's changing appearance drew many jokes, wild rumors, and a growing number of doctors who refused to confirm the extent of Michael's surgeries.
When you're a star of that magnitude, you're going to find somebody that's going to do exactly what you want, because nobody will say no to you.
People over the years have taken pictures, and you look at it, it's like, what has happened to his nose?
I definitely believe that if he was raised a different way, he would still be here.
Somebody with those sorts of deep, deep mental problems and emotional problems needed help. He needed help.
There is no question that a psychologist should have been seeing Michael Jackson every time he requested a plastic surgery and ask the questions. What is it that you're looking to do? Why are you not enough to yourself? You are okay as you are.
In the end, there is no one face by which we remember Michael Jackson.
It can be very tough being a child star. Because when you get taller, the whole world, like, they say, how dare you grow up on us?
If this marriage gets in the way of that friendship, we'll put the marriage aside.
He grabbed Blanket and took him out there.
Until those children choose to be DNA'd, I don't think anybody will ever know.
Despite the enormous problems Michael had growing up with his family in the spotlight, Michael desperately wanted a new family of his own. And in 1994, while the accusations of pedophilia swirled around him, Michael married Lisa Marie Presley. The wedding took place secretly in the Dominican Republic, and for almost 2 months, publicists denied they were even married. People were immediately suspicious.
It seemed to me that from a psychological sense, watching it, that the relationship and marriage with Lisa Marie Presley was just a sham.
Why would Lisa Marie marry him? I still couldn't imagine those two having much of a romantic relationship, but maybe they did.
The kiss on MTV was ridiculous. It was said afterwards that Lisa Marie wiped her lips?
I think for both of them, it was to help them publicly. He had a lot of stuff going on, and I think him to be married to a woman would have helped him.
And also, she grew up in strange circumstances. Her father was, you know, the most famous man on the planet. Her life wasn't normal. Michael Jackson's life wasn't normal. There you've got perhaps a meeting of two minds.
And just think, nobody thought this would last.
But it didn't last long. 2 years later, Lisa Marie filed for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. And while some people raised eyebrows at the abrupt and mutual separation, the real shock came soon after, when media reports broke that Michael had married a nurse named Debbie Rowe. Debbie was pregnant with his child.
Michael Jackson did the right thing last night and married her.
There was definitely a purpose behind those marriages. I'm not sure if it was a marriage out of love. With Debbie Rowe, he wanted kids.
Oh yeah, he always talked about that. At some point in his life, he wanted to get married and have kids. He loved kids.
They met at Arnold Klein, who's Michael Jackson's dermatologist. She was the nurse. They got chatting.
I'm not sure if they were in love. Maybe they were, but I don't think it's a standard marriage.
Once again, Michael was married in a private overseas ceremony, this time on the Australian leg of the History World Tour.
He needed a reputation boost. He'd married Liza Marie Presley, the King's daughter. That was falling apart. He needed children. He obviously made her an offer, which was obviously quite remarkable. And, you know, Debbie took up that offer to bear his children.
Whatever deal they made, you know, I'm not a part of it, don't know anything about it, but knowing Michael, he wanted those children for himself.
Immediately, rampant speculation spread about the legitimacy of the marriage, and while the couple repeatedly insisted that it was a normal union, by the time their second child was on the way, troubling signs started to emerge.
Michael and wife Debbie Rowe Jackson are expecting a little girl.
She had problems when she was pregnant with Paris, the second child, and she couldn't have any more children, at which point, you know, Michael Jackson seemed to lose interest. So her use had gone as far as Michael Jackson was concerned.
So little Pret's going to have a sister?
Yes.
How about after that?
Let's see. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I'm getting old.
Debbie and Michael divorced in 1999. Rumors surrounding the divorce say that Rowe was paid to give up full custody of the children.
There's no indication she's seen the children since Michael Jackson died. I don't think she wanted them.
She gave those children to Michael as a gift. That's what she said she did.
She also said that it was she that demanded the divorce.
My friendship with him is the most important thing to me. And if this marriage gets in the way of that friendship, then we'll put the marriage aside.
He wanted the kids, he wanted to raise them. He wanted to be a single parent.
Michael was an extraordinary father.
It looked like a happy family. That impressed me more than anything.
He's a great father, a wonderful father, very attentive, and he handled everything. He was the epitome of a single parent.
Michael appeared to thrive as a single father with young children, but as the kids grew older, the world caught a glimpse of some of Michael's bizarre methods of parenting.
In terms of being a father, I think there were a lot of conflicts. It is difficult for a boy man with arrested development to step into the role of father.
Michael, sometimes being childlike, he didn't understand that actions that he did would be so controversial.
I think for the kids being veiled, he was honestly trying to be a good dad. He remembered growing up always being photographed. He wanted to protect his kids. He took it too far, yes.
The most pointed criticism came after what we know today as the baby dangling incident.
At one point, Prince and Paris, you know, he had taken them to the window and of course put the scarf or something over their faces so that nobody could take their picture, but he would have them, you know, wave to the fans downstairs. And a lot of times those fans would say, you know, we want blanket, we want blanket. So Michael, just trying to appease the crowd below, at some point he grabbed blanket, put a blanket over Blanket's face and took him out there.
A lot of fathers take their children and they toss them up into the air and they catch them. Now, is that responsible? That's pretty irresponsible.
I think that Michael did nothing minimal. He took everything to the extreme.
The way Michael behaved with those children from start to finish, putting them in masks, hiding them away, it's really despicable, isn't it?
Was it the smartest thing to do? Well, no, obviously not.
He was trying to show the crowd below his child, in his exuberance, in his excitement, He did something which was irresponsible. He recognized it as irresponsible afterward, but he did it.
As the years went by and curiosity about the children increased, people started to question whether Michael was really the biological father.
Of course, Michael always claimed they were his kids, but it's obvious by looking at them that they don't seem to have any of the features genetically that Michael had when he was younger, pre-plastic surgery. And so there's a lot of suspicion about whether or not they were really his kids.
Throughout my investigation, I discovered that Michael was rumored to have solicited numerous sperm donors throughout the years, including Mark Lester, Arnold Klein, Marlon Brando, Omar Body, Johnny Cochran, Chris Tucker, and the late actor Robert Urich.
A British child actor, Mark Lester, he came out and said that he was the father.
I believe that Paris could be my daughter, and I'd be willing to take a paternity test. Michael Jackson asked me in a private conversation whether I would be willing to donate sperm on his behalf.
Best of my opinion, I believe Michael is the biological father. He told me he was. I have to take his word for it. Debbie Rose told me that he was. I have to take her word for it.
Michael always told me that he was the dad of Prince and Paris. There was a surrogacy whereby Blanket, who was Prince Michael II, was born.
Everyone has a different theory about who the biological father is for each of Michael's children. The most pointed speculation I found suggested that Blanket is the son of Omar Body, a Norwegian performer who Joe Jackson once claimed was actually Michael's illegitimate son. Others see a resemblance between Prince and Paris Jackson to Dr. Arnold Klein. Although Klein has admitted to once donating sperm, he has also stated that to the best of his knowledge, they are not his kids.
Looking at pictures of Harriet and Paris, there's a very strong resemblance between the two of them.
Until those children choose to be DNA'd and choose to name the father, I don't think anybody will ever know.
In the end and through my investigation, I believe it is most likely that Dr. Arnold Klein is Prince and Paris' sperm donor and that Omar Body is Blanket's. But does it really matter? Because Michael was the man they really called Dad.
When I watched him with those kids, they were his whole life. So it's sort of almost irrelevant.
Michael was a great father, a superb, hands-on dad. Nothing would ever take that away. Whether those children are biologically Michael's or not, Michael was their father. End of story.
In the wake of Michael's tragic and unexpected death, the world is closely watching to see what will become of Michael's children.
He presumably wanted his children to have the childhood he never had. And yet, his actions, I have to say, in, sleeping, not sleeping, taking pills.
Wouldn't you think he would have thought about those kids a little more? I mean, a guy that does that to his kids, can you really respect that guy?
These kids are going to be okay because they're surrounded by family and love.
I think we are all waiting with great anticipation to see what comes from Michael's children.
I have seen Blanket bust a move a couple of times in the kitchen. They're highly intelligent, the children, and they're very artistic and very creative. Their daddy made sure of all of those elements. But you never know. You never know.
If I had a son or a daughter, I said, by all means, be my kid. Step right in there. If you want to do it, do it. Because to me, nothing's more important than making people happy.
Those people who facilitated this, they know who they are.
He will become even more of an icon because he died when he did.
Even in death, the saga of Michael Jackson continues to write itself. We watch his children grow up. We debate his legacy. Our cameras circle the courtrooms. The world cannot look away.
The delay in the investigation of Michael Jackson has got everybody going, what's going on, as to who did what, when, where, and how.
In writing the story of Michael Jackson, there are so many broken pieces to put together. Everybody has a little piece of it. Everybody sees a different cause of death.
Those people who facilitated this, who made this happen, they know who they are.
In my opinion, the doctor obviously must not have been paying attention.
I think it was a genuine mistake on the part of the doctor.
I mean, I would hold Conrad Murray responsible, and Michael Jackson himself. He wasn't stupid. He must have known he was pushing his luck.
I told you, he was living on the edge. These things happen.
Conrad Murray, he's nailed, and properly so, but he did not prescribe all those drugs. I'm talking about doctors doing these kinds of things.
There's a lot of people that you could probably point a finger at. But I mean, that really wouldn't do anybody any good at this point.
Michael was not going to get old. Michael did not want to get old. Michael was Peter Pan.
You know, I think there was a part of him that always envisioned dying young, and, you know, in some ways that type of death would immortalize him.
Beyond the numerous factors that caused the death of Michael Jackson, the greed, the drugs, the so-called enablers, there are glimpses in the bigger picture that the cause may have been Michael himself.
Michael would put too much pressure on himself to perform.
He was a perfectionist. There's no question about that. When he was on the stage, he took over.
And this kind of perfectionist aspect of his life presented terrible complications.
I think he committed the kind of suicide that we know of where people do things such that they will die.
I can't think that, you know, all of the years of enduring, you know, the sort of scrutiny and inaccuracies and accusations helped.
As the facts of the case pile up, Michael's story becomes larger. We comment and speculate worldwide, and in the bigger picture of Michael Jackson, we begin to see ourselves.
Michael Jackson died for the same reason that our society is dying. Michael Jackson is us.
He's sort of the quintessential American music icon. He's fascinated people ever since he was one of the Jackson 5. He's been an endless source of wonder and of gossip. He will become even more of an icon because he died when he did.
So a lot of people would go as far to say that Michael Jackson is our popular culture. I mean, really, you look back the past 20 years and people can say whatever they want. They can criticize him for his plastic surgery, for the way he dressed, his antics. Whatever, say whatever you want. We're still talking about him.
He made an impact on the entire world. How many people can you say that about?
And he was weird. So obviously we loved him for all that.
Well, as a human being, he was a very, very gentle, kind, giving person.
His music will live forever. He's going to influence generations of musicians and actors and singers after him.
I have to go back to when I was a kid. Yeah, there was Madonna. Yeah, there was all those artists that you're talking about, Prince and so on and so forth. But to me, Michael Jackson was an entertainer.
And as an entertainer, I doubt very much there'll ever be anybody as great as he was. He had talent beyond talent.
This man wrote, composed, produced, arranged, danced, choreographed, acted. You know, I mean, I can go on and on and on. Entertainer should have a picture of Michael Jackson right beside it in every dictionary. I'm sorry.
There was a time when I condemned Michael Jackson because I really didn't know who he was, because I didn't know the true story. And after 5 years piecing it together, I finally understand what the world has lost.
No artist had that kind of genius in this lifetime. And if it does happen in my lifetime, it's going to happen when I'm gray and old.
I don't think the world will see another Michael Jackson, not in this lifetime.
I wanted to be so much more, but I didn't have the chance and the time to perfect it the way I want to.